We're going to look at a couple of questions from section 1.6, starting with question 5. In this question, we have a large table of values, and we want to first make a scattergram of the data. All right, to do a scattergram of this data, since this is years after 1900, I'm going to change each of these year values by subtracting 1900 to 70 and 75 and 80, etc. I'm going to go to my calculator. All right, so here's a calculator. Should look like your handheld calculator. The first thing I need to go in is press the Stat key and go into option 1 for Edit. Now I can type in all of those values. I'm going to see if I can pull my screen over here just a little bit so I can read that. So I'm going to type them. That's 70, hit the down key, then 75 down, 80, 85, 90, 95, 100, 105. Then I'm going to go over to list 2 and type in the second column. 9.1 is the first one. All right, 11.5, 19.5, 21.9, 27.1, 29.6, 36.2, and 37.4. I hope I typed those all in correctly. Okay, now if you were working on a worksheet or a test, after you enter your values, you're going to go onto your calculator, go to y equals, and you're going to go up to plot 1 and highlight it, enter, turn it on, and then you're going to go to zoom stat, option 9. Remember, your data was in the stat menu, so you're going to zoom stat, option 9 here. So if you're working on a worksheet or on a test, you want to zoom stat to get a picture of your data. Sometimes my math lab problems will give you a specific window to graph things in, and if you're going to be comparing all these little graphs, trying to determine which one is the one they want, you're going to change the window manually. So I need to do 65 to 110 by 5, so let's see what that would look like. So instead of doing zoom stat, a manual window would have me push the window key, and I'm really close. They wanted 65 by 105 by 5, 5 being the scale, and then the y would be 5 by 45 by 5, so 5, 45, and 5. Now I will hit graph again. Okay. So that's the graph on that scale. We're going to compare that to the options that we have. Let me see if I can pull this over. Okay, so, all right. My graph is filling my screen. It's very close to the top. It seems to be relatively steep, so I would throw out those two. Oops. And then, so I think these two are a little bit low. These two over here a little bit higher. Their differences are that the point goes a little lower here, a little higher here. So looking at that grouping helps me pair up that it's a little lower here, a little higher here, that it was going to be part A. Again, they're very similar. C was not going to be working because you need that lower than higher, so those two are in the opposite order. These two are, again, super close. That one does the lower than the higher, but that is just a little bit too low for that scale. It doesn't have the window correct, so that's the problem with D. All right. Now, we want to find an equation of the model. Okay, so this one we got correct, but let's do it anyway. You can use your calculator to do that, and if you were on a worksheet or a task, that's what you would do. You go into Stat. You're in the Stat menu. You've already edited your data. So you're going to go over using the arrow to Calc, short for calculate. And there are lots of options here for different kinds of models you can choose. We want linear regression because we want this to look, the equation to be a straight line, makes our data look like a straight line. So we're going to choose option 4, linear regression. Then we have to go down, down, down to calculate, and then we can hit enter. So the linear regression model would be negative 0.85x minus 50.358. I'm going to write that down over here. This model would be y equals 0.85x minus 50 point, it was, I believe, 358, so we'll say 36. Okay, so that is the true linear regression model for this data. We don't do these models by hand. If they have lots of data points, we use regression to get the model. That's the model. If you're on a test question, that's the answer. Sometimes the MyMathLab model is slightly off. Okay, here they have the 0.85x correct. Actually, I should change the variables. Up here somewhere, they said to use t for years, and they said to use p for percent. So I'll change my equation to make it a model by using p equals 0.85t minus the 50.36. Okay, that way it's actually a model having the correct variables instead of just an equation, p and t. There we go. Okay, so they have 3.5 instead of 3.6. Let me go back. That 3.5 does need to be rounded to 3.6. So as long as we typed everything in correctly, that should be, truly should be 3.6. Okay. Now, there are some reasons that MyMathLab might be off a little bit on these. One of those reasons is that sometimes when this section is taught, we are taught to pick two ordered pairs that are going to make the best line and then to do it by hand. We don't do it that way in our class. We do it with regression, but this might be a by hand model. That's why it can be slightly off in MyMathLab. Some other schools might ask their students to do by hand models for this section, but that's not how we do it. The regression model takes all of the points into account here. It's going to use all of them, and that's what we want to do as well. Okay? So the true and correct answer would have that 3.6 at the end. All right, but this is very close. That's the one we're going to select for right now, and we can answer the rest of the questions from there. So draw the line and the scattergram in the same viewing window. Okay, so back to my calculator. Y equals, I can type in the equation. If I remember what it was negative 0.85 up, negative 0.85 x minus, I forgot the y, but let's see, 50.3, and they use 3.5. I want to use the value that was here just to make sure that it's exactly like it was in that answer. So minus 50.35. We will now hit graph. Our plot is still turned on, so we will see the data also, and we see our graph. Okay. Before I look for my answer, I also want to note that they have changed the window on me. Now it needs to be 65 by 110, so I'm going to change my window also. 65 by 110 by 5, and then the y min and max, I think those stayed the same at 545.5. So, yep, those stay the same. So now I'm going to graph again. Okay. Maybe it was already 110. Did I do the first one wrong? No, it did say 110. That was my mistake. I did that one wrong. I read it as 105. So it was always 110. Good. So it should look like this. What you're noting as you compare this graph versus the MyMathLab graph is where you have points under the line and where you have points over. On, under, over, on, over, under, over, under. That's the pattern you're looking for. And this one matches that pattern. Okay. Again, this one fills the window correctly. This one's too low in the window, so it doesn't match the way this graph goes right up off the top of the corner right there. And this one's much lower, so it's going to be this one. And then this one doesn't have the right pattern. See, it goes over here where it should have went under. The first one was on, then under. All right, so those are the things you're looking for.